I was born in a barn alongside my siblings. I remember warm hay and my mother's soft fur. Mother said I was always the brave one. I was first to venture from the safety of her side, first to try my skills on my siblings, first to make an attempt on the foolish mouse that showed himself on the flat dirt of our home. I was also the first to challenge the male tabby that came to Mother some days. I hissed and growled at the stranger, and Mother came immediately to my side. She swatted me and called me foolish for challenging such a large cat. Then she nuzzled me and said I had the heart of a lion. She called me Lionheart and took me home to my siblings. I was so proud that I strutted about and tried to pounce on my eldest brother. He laughed at my squeaking attempts to roar, and they all ganged up on me. But I was brave and was the first that Mother named. One night the wind howled and banged at our door. The rafters shuddered under the heavy rain as it drove down from the dark sky. That night, Mother told us that one day our human would come. He would bring with him new humans who would take us and give us new homes. She said that the new humans would be our family, that they would care for us, and we in turn must protect them from the night things. When I remember her words, I feel the cold air as it bit into my small body. Her eyes shone as she warned us of the night things. They were colder than the air in the barn as she spoke. It made me shiver with fear, but I was Lionheart. I was brave. As my siblings burrowed deep into Mother's side, only I sat before her and listened. She said that each night, the night things would come. They would prowl through the dark, and only we, the protectors of our homes, would be able to fend them off. At first, when we were brought to our new homes, they would not come. Only when they'd satisfied themselves that we were truly there to stay, only when our new home was truly ours, would the night things come. I didn't question Mother then. Only later did I wonder, and never too loud or deeply, why the night things would only come when we claimed our homes. What were they? What did they do? And what did they want? I didn't find out that night, nor the next year, nor the year after that. It wasn't until many, many years later that I finally had my answers. Mother was right, of course. Our human did come. He came with a young man and a young woman. They brought 2 little girls with them, and the little girls immediately ran to us. My siblings hid in the dark corners of the barn, but I was Lionheart, and I was scared of nothing. Though my body quivered and my heart raced, I stood my ground, didn't hiss or bite as the bigger girl scooped me up into her arms. She squealed loudly and raced back to her parents to show me off. The parents laughed and nodded, and I knew then that I would never see my mother nor my siblings again. I struggled to look back at them one last time. She sat tall and regal in the sunlit door of the barn, her glossy grey and white fur shimmering in the sunlight. Her green eyes shimmered too, full of love and pride and sadness. I was Lionheart. I would not cry. The little human girl carted me away, but I knew I would have a better life. I knew this was the way it had to be. I knew because Mother had told me this. I'd never forget the look in Mother's eyes as she watched me go. Not ever. The ride to my new home was horrible. My stomach ached as the car rocked and I felt sick. The little girl clutched me tight to her lap and whispered soft words as she stroked my fur. It helped a little. I'd never really been petted much at the barn. Occasionally the human man would come with extra fast food and hesitantly rub our heads or backs, but I'd never felt much for him or his half-hearted pets. But the little girl sheltered me in the dark folds of her dress and spoke to me the entire way to my new home. I'd be okay. I was Lionheart, and I liked being petted by this little human girl. At first, the new sights and smells of the house overwhelmed me. The little girl set me on the floor, and I ran for cover. There was so much new here, so much unknown. I cowered beneath a couch and shivered. Mother had warned us, but I couldn't have known how strange a new home would be. At first, the little girl had tried to coax me from beneath my hiding spot, but after my stubborn refusal, the bigger human scolded the girl, and they left me be. Well, I slept for a time, but Then I grew curious. I was in a whole new world and I needed to find out what was in it. Well, the smell of food also helped. It took some getting used to, but in the next couple of days I found myself growing to really like my new home. I was settling in. But in the back of my mind, Mother's warnings never left me. At night I would creep through the house, looking for the mysterious night things. It was on the third night that I saw my first one. I was nosing around the kitchen, smelling the human's dinner from earlier that night, when I heard the faint sound of a step. Ears alert, I listened more intently. It was too soft for a human. They were loud and clumsy. The soft step sounded again. Padded feet and claws on the hard wood of the living room. Cautiously I crept towards the sound. Another step. I stalked into the room, peeking around the corner, trying to see what had invaded my new home. It was there, just below the window, dark shadows swirling around a small four-legged creature. It was smooth-skinned with long, dark claws and fangs. Its tail swished, and I wondered if it had sensed me yet. It smelled of rain and wet leaves, of darkness and mold. I moved silently towards the thing, watching it as it lowered itself to the floor and snuck forward again. This was not like the play stalking of my siblings in the barn. It wasn't like chasing the toy mouse the little human girl tossed for me. This was serious business. I'd protect my home from this abomination. My heart beat like a drum in my tiny chest, but power filled my muscles and I sped from my hiding spot behind a potted plant. The night thing turned to me as I leapt atop it. My claws unsheathed, sank deeply into its soft flesh. I bit at its neck and latched onto what I could only hope was its jugular. It struggled and writhed under my small body, trying to bring its own claws to bear. But I was Lionheart, and I would not let up. We struggled a moment longer before the coppery taste of its dark blood filled my mouth. Just a moment more, and it grew still. I held my grip until I was certain it had perished. Then I let go and stood back, reviewing my kill with pride. Mother would be proud too, I was sure. Then the night thing began to dissolve. Wisps of dark smoke rose from its body in tendrils that reached for the ceiling. In seconds it had faded away into nothingness. I was satisfied. The house would be safe tonight. Each night thereafter, the night things would come. They would slide through the screened windows, flit through the cracks in the doors, and sometimes even rise through the floors of the kitchen. Each night I would stalk and dispose of them. It was easy work, and I was proud to give back to my family. I'd watch the corpse of the night thing turn vaporous and melt into the dark. Then I'd curl up next to my human girls and purr in their ears. They would sleepily stroke my grey coat, and I'd drift away to pleasant dreams. I protected them, and I loved them, though I never forgot my mother. I would think of her sometimes when I was alone, and my family was off doing their own things. I'd remember her warmth against my small body, and the joy of chasing my siblings. But in the end, I didn't regret my choices or my fate. My life in the house was pleasant for the most part. The humans doted on me with toys and delicious food. Sometimes they'd get angry and shout when I leapt onto the table or stole a mouthful of food from their plates. But when I came to them with a purr in my chest and rubbed them for pets, they would sigh and succumb to my bribes of love. Soon enough, the years began to pass. I found more often than not that my joints would ache and my bones throb as the winter set in. When the house grew warmer and my girls grew tall, I grew too tired to play the games that I used to. The years were good to me, though, and I savoured every one of them. I'd sit and watch the family as they went about their lives. As we lived and loved one another, I was a silent observer of their joys and a comforter in their sorrows. And when the nights came and they were tucked away in their beds, I would hunt. And though when I was young and spry it was as simple as breathing, the years took their toll. I found it more and more difficult to patrol the nights. I was stiff and tired. It was harder to catch my breath afterwards. I was growing too old for the hunt. Each night I would curl up to sleep with worry on my mind. I knew I couldn't protect the family forever. But what would happen when I inevitably failed? I didn't know. Whatever did happen, though, I would stand my ground and bare my teeth on those night things. I would defy them and stand on. So I held my head high during the nights and pushed on. The years wore me down, as age does. Through blurry eyes I hunted. Through aching and protesting bones I prevailed. But the night things kept coming. It became a struggle to rouse my weary body every evening. But I would go as long as I could. I was Lionheart, and I would not let my family down. I would give them every last breath of my life. Finally, the night came when I could give no more. I heard a whisper of movement as it approached my resting spot upon a chair in the living room. Soft paws padding on carpet. I opened my eyes to peer at my foe. It was a shadow amongst shadows. Once I might have seen it clearly, but now it was a dim shape. I sighed and tried to stand, but my legs failed me. So I was completely surprised when the night thing leapt up beside me. I blinked at it, and then my heart quickened. Soft grey and white fur came into focus, and she rubbed her warm face against mine. Her purr was a salve to my aching body and soul. I closed my eyes as her weight settled against me. Her memory had faded with time, but I knew her scent as it filled my nose. I could never truly forget it. And so it was, with my mother beside me, that I took my last breath.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Really means a lot to me and to the author of the story, of course. Well, if you want to know more about me, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can download my music on SoundCloud. I've got a Patreon if you feel like. Throw me $1 or $2. Very much appreciated. And of course, on Reddit, I have a place where you can leave stories if you want me to read one that you've written. Well, hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams, and bye-bye.